All right, welcome everyone. What an awesome turnout. What a great turnout. It's great to have you all here. You are at a live recording of my podcast called Conscious Profits Unfiltered. You are getting some feedback. I'll keep talking and we'll keep testing. And you're here at the Kinn, which is a hub for conscious entrepreneurs. There's a lot of amazing mission-driven events and cool things. So if you want to find out more, please do talk to somebody here at the Kinn to learn what this is all about. And today I welcome Brandon Desjarlais. So welcome, Brandon. Give him a warm applause. Yeah. Love it. Welcome, Brandon. Brandon, what was your last oh shit moment? First thing that comes to mind, last oh shit.
Whoa. I feel like I don't have as many of those as much anymore, but I guess what a good one to start with. Last oh shit moment. Oh shit. We just did this event with Waymo and they donated like 100 skateboards to our organization, which is amazing. And they wanted our team to help build and assemble and paint them. And I was like, okay, that's great. So we'll have like 30, 40 volunteers to help us like put together these skateboards. And they're like, no, we have like 300 volunteers. And I'm like, so what, 3 people per skateboard? And we like, Johnny and a couple other people here like help set that all up. And we got it all ready. We're like, we have a flow, we have a system. It's going to work like this. People are going to come in. And then as soon as 300 volunteers came in, it was just total chaos. And people were like painting the boards wrong and this way and that way. And all the trucks were on backwards and we were having to undo things. And we didn't even have enough people on our team to undo things quick enough. So it's just a reminder that like, wow, even if you have a plan, it's like it can all go so
Absolutely.
crazy so soon.
And it goes the other way around too. Even when you don't have a plan, things can turn out beautifully and just completely flip.
Yeah, sometimes better.
Exactly. I love that. So you were around 14 when you became obsessed with skateboarding. Did you have any obsessions before skateboarding?
Just before skateboarding, I mean, I was involved in every sport you can think of: basketball, football, soccer, wrestling. And around 12, 13, I got super into Jackass. Who here has seen Jackass? It's like, blowing stuff up, rolling people down hills and trash cans. So that was really my obsession. And I remember in 7th grade, I was part of the TV production at my middle school. And we were filming all these stunts, and I saved up all my money one year to like buy a little camcorder with the DV tapes. And so that was my obsession, making funny, obnoxious, a little bit reckless videos.
I totally did that too. That was so much fun. It was so dumb.
Yeah.
Just like get inside of like a shopping cart and then have your buddy take you downhill and
totally,
just crash into something. Like,
Yeah.
It's so fun. I love it. And how did you get into skateboarding?
Skateboarding, I initially, my older cousin came over when I was like 5 or 6 years old, and he brought his Nintendo 64, and he had Tony Hawk Pro Skater. And I remember he bet me when I was like 5, 6 years old. He's like, hey, man, if you can beat my score on Tony Hawk, I'll give you $50. When you're like 5, that's like $5,000.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I was like, that's like, I didn't buy anything back then. So the only thing I bought was like gumballs. And so I was like, this is way more gumballs than I could even fathom.
That's a lot of gumballs.
It's a lot of gumballs.
Yeah.
And I tried my very best and I just got smoked. But ever since then, I was like, wow, skateboarding really, and this video game really taught me that skateboarding turns the entire world into your playground, into your canvas.
Of that.
And so it started then, and I got my first skateboard. And when I was 14, I got my first longboard, and it all went downhill from there.
I love that. And you were telling me a little bit earlier when we were chatting a story about your brother. And if you don't mind sharing that with us here a little bit.
Yeah, so my brother was my best friend all the way up until middle school. And he's a year younger than me. His name's Tim. And being a year younger than me, he also had a little bit better grades than me. We're on all the same sports teams, same basketball team, football team. And we were the type of brothers that would, some of the best kids on the team, but we would steal the ball from each other and then steal it back. And so it was kind of like this rivalry, right? And it was really fun. We had all the same friends, did all the same things. But through that Jackass era, right, we started with blowing stuff up and rolling people down, stuff down hills and trash cans. And then it eventually got more and more reckless to the point where I was like starting to get really uncomfortable. And I was like, this is going in a direction where I just do not feel comfortable doing. It was like, breaking windows and popping people's tires and really just like evil stuff now. And when I think about it, it feels fun when you're like a kid. And so around like 7th, 8th grade, I was like, I just took a step back and I was like, I don't want to be involved in this anymore. And I was really lonely. And And then my brother started doing, drugs and alcohol, and it seemed all good. And unfortunately, pretty soon after that, when I was in 8th grade, he was at a friend's house and did meth for the first time. And through that process, he like pretty quickly developed really bad anger management and schizophrenia. And it made my home life very tumultuous and chaotic. And it made me a really, really shy, scared little boy where I was ashamed to bring anyone over to our house for fear that something was going to happen. And it was just something that made me just so shy and so scared. Fortunately, during that whole time, I joined the wrestling team. And so I found some new friends through that. And then in the spring, I started longboarding, found some new friends through that. And I really found something that got me out of the house. It got me excited. Because up until then, like during that phase, I didn't really have much autonomy. I had a bike when I was like 5, 6 years old, and I was biking all over town. And it was wonderful, going to all the parks and everything. But my family never had a lot of money. So my bike was a hand-me-down bike. And by the time I was 11, 12, 13, the 5-year-old bike I was riding around on just wasn't cutting it anymore. So I was like so dependent on my parents at a time where, I was really craving more freedom. It was like becoming a teenager. And so the longboard really like gave me that autonomy and gave me the opportunity to be like, okay, mom and dad, I'm going to go skate. When will you be back? I don't know. Tonight? I'll see you later because I don't want to be here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that must have been something that really at least helped you focus on something that, that was just kind of tough, everything that was going on. So you were focusing on that. And I know that you delivered Jimmy John's on longboards during college, right?
How did you figure that out?
Was this just like a hustle for efficiency situation, or is it symbolic for something else?
It was the best job I ever had. So I remember I was applying for my first job at Subway. Okay, I was like, I want to work at a place, free food would be nice, but I don't want to clean greasy, messy stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, Subway is the perfect choice. And I went in, and there was like a little group interview with 3 other people. And I was like a little too confident maybe. And I was looking around and I was like, I got the job. Like these other 2 people are like weird. And then we left, and pretty instantly they're like, hey, so you didn't get the job. And they did. And I was like, what? And then I was like just confused. And I remember walking outside of Subway and looking across the street, and there was a Jimmy John's. And I'd never been to Jimmy John's before. I don't know what it was. But I was like, okay, I'll go over there. There's maybe okay, round 2, we'll shoot a shot there. And I went over and I was like, hey man, I'd like a job. And they're like, okay, well, do you know what we do? I was like, not really. They're like, well, we do delivery. And I was like, oh, cool, like cars. And they're like, well, yeah, we have some people that bike. And I was like, hey, you're never going to believe me, but I'm going to skateboard all my deliveries. And I'm going to be your fastest delivery driver. And the guy was like, no way. And I'm like, I promise. And he was just like, what? And he loved my confidence, which was a cool change of pace. And yeah, he was like, man, if you can memorize the menu and come back in an hour, you got a job, and you'll just start doing it. And it was so cool because, like 4 or 5 days a week, I would spend the couple hours after school just skating around town. And so I was basically training. I was like, I lived in Salem, Oregon, and Jimmy John's was kind of in the middle of this like hilly neighborhood. So it's like if I go north or west, it was like all uphill, big hills. If I go south or east, it was like started with a 40-mile-an-hour hill bomb, like all the way down to the next major road. So it was like the coolest training ever, where it's like I got to strap on my helmet and feel like a superhero and skate to my deliveries. And it was just so fun. It's like, made a little bit of tips, right? So the pay was better than some of the other jobs. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Did you ever drop any sandwiches or eat any and then still deliver them?
I had a feeling. Not the eating one, but the dropping one. So the tricky part is you don't deliver sandwiches. Sandwiches are easy. You can throw them in your backpack. Sometimes you have to deliver 4 32-ounce Cokes, like in a paper cup.
Yeah.
And so you'd like, before you do your delivery, you'd like, okay, load them up, and you'd like tape them shut a bunch of times with like duct tape.
Duct tape.
Duct tape. You know, people weren't always stoked about that, but I was like, but yeah, I just like
That's funny.
there was times where I became really aware that people in their cars, even back then, 10 years ago or whatever it was, 15 years ago, wow, they were on their phones, right? So I'm like skating through town, I'm like looking around, I'm like, oh man, that person doesn't see me, and I'm like waving, and then like they bump into me or hit me, or like just don't even stop at all and just come into the street. So there were definitely a couple times where I ate shit in traffic because of cars.
Just getting practice for live, for skating the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean, I was a little reckless. The thing that made me the fastest delivery driver is, unlike a bike, I can, in half a second, pop my board up, it's in my hand, and I'm like now running across the street or through the street. You know, and so I was really agile. I didn't have to lock my bike up. I just like throw my backpack on, and I'm out the door, and I'm like 2 blocks down before the dude unlocks his bike or the guy starts his car. And it was the Jimmy John's I was at was actually like the second fastest in the country or something like that. We had like a guy that was a bike.
They were like measuring that?
Yeah, he was like a bicycle triathlete, and we had a guy who was on a motorcycle.
No way.
And it was like there was a leaderboard. Like I loved it. It was so
epic.
fun.
That's really cool how they gamified that.
Yeah, because you'd go and you'd be like, okay, I take my name, I take this delivery, I'm out, and when you come back, you like check back in, so they know the distance.
Wow, that's great.
They know how long you were gone, and so there was like average time per delivery.
So that was setting you up for stunt doubling for Vin Diesel, which is basically like your big break.
Yeah,
tell us about that. What was that like?
So coming up into 2015, I was skating a lot, and I was starting to travel a bit, and it was taking every penny out of my savings to save up and just go to some of these events. And most of them were downhill skating events in the beginning, so flying down hills at speeds of 40, 50, sometimes 60 miles an hour. And I had this...
By the way, y'all should picture that for a second. Like, if you haven't seen any of his videos, it's pretty wild. Yeah. This guy does. So,
it's like a Tuna Canyon or any of these roads out in Malibu. Some of the steepest, craziest roads. We skate these.
Sorry, continue. I just wanted to... Yeah. If nobody's gotten a visual, please go check that out later and search on YouTube.
Thank you, Seb. Yeah, it was scary, especially when you're like 14 and first learning this stuff, and you have like kids that are 2 or 3 years older than you that are like the pot smoking cool kids that are calling you a pussy and telling you to go down this hill. It's like, I don't know if I can do that. And they're like, you can. We're spotting to make sure there's no cars. And I'm like, I'm not worried about the cars. I'm worried about me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So coming into 2015, it was a really interesting timing because I started to get some big sponsors, but they weren't really paying me yet. I was just happy to be associated with them. And at the time, the industry was shrinking just a little bit. And so the top riders went from getting paid, $1,000 a month or whatever it was to $500 a month. And they were all so salty and so bummed. And so they quit putting an effort to these brands. And so quickly I was able to stand out because I'm like, I'm just going to go out and set up my camera on a tripod and hit record and just every week, like send them stuff and check in. And my goal was like, I want to be the first person they think about when anything cool comes up. And the coolest thing I thought was going to come up was like, ooh, they'll pay to do like a cool video of me and maybe they'll fly me to Europe and I'll get to go to these events I always want to go to. That'd be so amazing. And what ended up happening is I crawl out of bed at 6:30 in the morning. I go to my community college math class and I get a call from one of my sponsors and they're like, hey man, someone called about a movie or something. Seems like a student film. And they need like your measurements. And I was like, what do you mean by measurements? And they're like your elbow and your wrist. And I'm like, okay, that's oddly specific, but I guess I'll go to the weight room and ask the weight coach. And so I did that and just sent it off to my sponsor. And then that night at 10 p.m. got a call from this guy, Scott. And he just calls me. He's like, hey man, what's up? It's Scott. And I'm like, okay. Do I know you? He's like, they didn't tell you I was calling? And I was like, no. He's like, all right, great. Well, can you fly to the Dominican Republic tomorrow morning? And I was like, well, I'm in school right now the last couple weeks, but like I was missing a bit of school at that time for skating. So I was like, I'm open. And then he's like, cool. And are you free like the next 3 or 4 weeks? And I was like, well, I just said like, it's the last 3 or 4 weeks of the term. So that kind of like messed things up. I'm pretty sure. Is there internet in the Dominican Republic? And he's like, probably not really. I was like, okay. And he's like, but you're good? I'm like, I'd consider it. And then he's like, sweet. And can you shave your head tonight?
Oh,
and I was like,
that was really bad.
Yeah.
That was the one that was like,
well, so it was that.
I missed school, but.
Right. And then the next one was, I was like, what is this? And he's like, well, it's triple X. And in my head, I was like, okay, so you want me to flee the country for 3 weeks, conceal my identity, and it's triple X? I was imagining like adult industry.
Yeah.
Like I was not imagining Vin Diesel at all. I didn't even know what triple X was.
Right.
You know, and then it was a long pause, and I was like, I don't know, man. And he's like, well, it's like the action movie. I was like, oh, cool. Oh, okay. Like I could say, okay, yeah, okay. Well, what do you need me to do? You know, like you need someone to skate in the background. He's like, no, we're looking for somebody to stunt double for Vin. Vin Diesel? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, whoa, okay.
Time to get jacked.
I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I'm in. and then he's like, cool. And then he's like, but actually, you know, you sent in your measurements. You're like 5'10", 165 pounds, and I was like, yes. I was really like 145 pounds. But he's like, oh, is there any chance you know anybody else that's closer to like 6 foot, 210? And I was like, no, nope. We're skateboarders. We're all skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually
I'm the
like,
tallest of all.
I'm on the bigger end. So you're gonna probably want me. And it was an opportunity that completely changed my life because it was something where I'd never even asked questions about it. I was just like, we're doing this. I got a little email that had the XXX branding, and I went to my dad at like 10 at night. He's already asleep, and I'm like, I think you need to take me to the airport tomorrow.
So cool.
And he's like, what?
So much fun.
What for? And I was like, just flying by the seat of my pants, and okay, we're doing this. All right, cool, let's go.
What's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying the show. If you love the show, please share it with a homie. It would mean the world to me. Also want to let you know that you can check out sebastiannom.com for more resources like this, and also www.goglobal.agency, a digital marketing agency that's end-to-end, helping purpose-driven and mission-driven brands scale their impact. Again, that's goglobal.agency or sebastiannom.com. Please hit me up straight up on Instagram, DM me, ask me questions. I'd love to connect with you and see what you thought about this episode or other episodes and what you want to hear more of. Much love. That's awesome, man. Is this a time when you realized that skateboarding would actually change your life, the direction of your life completely?
That's a great question. You know, my progress was really incremental. Up until that point, it was like, okay, I'd get a little bit of money from a sponsor, or a little bit of success, or this or that, whatever. But I just had this feeling in my heart that I was like, all this effort is going to pay off in some way. I don't know how. All this effort is going to pay off. Because at one point, right around that same time, I was doing the math, and I was like, yo, the amount of time I'm spending creating videos, talking to these companies, doing all these things, I'm getting paid $3 an hour, and it's not even in US dollars. It's in skateboard wheels. And so I was like, I might as well be working more at Jimmy John's, because this does not make sense.
Yeah. I love that you had that feeling. I think a lot of us do a lot of things passionately for a long time, and you don't know when you'll get a big break, or sometimes things are incremental. So I love that you knew that was coming, that you knew that big break was coming.
I just felt it.
I love that. That's great. And then you started doing all kinds of brand deals, and things started taking off for you. Were you ever offered brand deals that didn't quite align with you so much, so you decided not to take them? Or looking back now, you'd be like, now that I am more in alignment with my life, I wouldn't necessarily take those and just work with, movements that really align with my values more?
Yeah, it's funny, when you don't have a lot of money, you'll do almost anything for money. And
Triple X.
Yeah, triple X, right? So fortunately, I didn't do anything I was like too unaligned with. There was definitely like through 2020, I had a lot of attention, was getting a couple million views a week on TikTok, and I had these like gambling companies and like online casino video game companies reaching out like, hey, we'll pay you $1,000 every time you mention us.
Yeah.
And we'll do this, and we'll give you commission on people you get into gambling. And then I was like, wait. And I was like, gambling's kind of evil for some people. And I was like, so you want to give me 5% of like all the money that people are like just throwing down the drain to you guys, like playing on people's like desires when they're at their most like weak and susceptible? Like I was like, that's evil. And so I was like, no. I consider it, I was like, hey, like if it's way more money, and if we like donate that money, and like that money's like actually going to create like some sort of program, I'm like, okay, well maybe there's like a net positive here. But I was just, the gambling and stuff like that, I was like, nah.
Yeah, I bet. So you've skated all over the world. So many different countries you've been to and different skate cultures and communities. There's just something specific that you noticed about skate culture and community in different parts of the world that really shaped your understanding and concept of community that when you came back, you took?
Yeah, man. The number one thing is that no matter where I went, whether I was in Italy or Paris or London or some rural town in Germany, you're always going to find a group of guys hanging out in some mom's basement, hanging out, drinking, shooting the shit, and just enjoying life. And what I realize is that even though French people are like this and German people are like that and Americans are like this and Californians are like this, we all want the same things. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel purposeful. We all want to have a good time. We all want to explore our interests. And so it was really that. And I was like, okay, we're all like actually way more similar than we think and then we say. And so knowing that and coming here to Los Angeles, which is like a huge melting pot of different people and identities and race, religion, creed, I'm just so excited to like bring all those things together.
I love that. I love that. You went from competing and doing these types of deals to then creating Beyond the Board. So you go from athlete to a nonprofit founder. Was there a moment when you realized that skateboarding could be a vehicle for deeper change for people in life?
Yeah, it was, in 2020, leading up to that, I was traveling most of the year. And most of that travel was because I was like, finally, I got my big break. I'm going to be this cool skater guy. And I'm not going to be home. Because at the time, my home was a little crazy and police were at the house and it was just super toxic. And so even though I was like living my skater boy dream life, I also just felt like this deep sense of loneliness and sadness. I always covered it with a smile. I did a really good job about covering it with a smile. But I just felt a little bit empty inside. And when COVID happened, it was really the best thing that happened to me because it forced me to stop traveling. And so it forced all my travel and experiences to settle in. And yeah, through that, I just like was reminded how powerful skateboarding was for me in my journey when I was at a time where I really needed support and mentorship. And unlike most other sports that I was in, for skateboarding, there's no set practice times. There's no coaches. There's no rule book, really. There's no, there's no like program. There's no major leagues. Not really. There's not in college. And so you really have to pave your own way. And what I didn't realize is that it taught me just so much about patience, perseverance, self-reliance, self-confidence, and courage.
All beautiful things. And then what did you do with Beyond the Board that you took all of those learnings and started traveling the country?
Yeah. So in 2020, I was living downtown Portland and it kind of turned to Gotham City. And I got robbed at gunpoint. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Fuck this place. I hate this place. And I called my buddy in Venice because I traveled down here a couple times. And I was like, man, is this still cool down there? Because it sucks up here. He's like, well, everything's closed except the beach. People are still rollerblading. People are still skateboarding and volleyball and all this. And so I came down here on a whim and just never left. And over the course of that time, I was getting like tens of thousands of messages per year. So many people that were excited about their skate journey. COVID happened. They're trying to figure out what to do, something fun. They want to learn something new. And so I was like thinking about it. I was like, man, like there's so many people that want to skate. I'm not necessarily seeing them on the boardwalk. I know hundreds and hundreds of these people live in Los Angeles. It must be. And so I just committed myself like, hey, I'll start hosting free skate workshops here in the Santa Monica Venice parking lot, and we'll see where it goes. And what started as literally 5 people the first time, over the course of 2 or 3 months, it grew to 50 or 60 people every single workshop, every single week. And most of these people had never even been on a board before. So we had all these like demo boards and we're working with all these brands and there was a lot of excitement and we were putting so much energy into this. It was really exciting for me because I got to relive my first skate experiences vicariously through all these people. And I was just like so reminded how beautiful it was and how empowering it can feel to like step on something that's uncomfortable and scary and potentially really painful and dangerous and just like see people with the right environment really like thrive and break through their own mental and physical barriers.
That's so cool. How many people here, has anyone been to one of Brandon's? Look at that. That's
Ooh
awesome.
la la.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And so through that, you started, I mean, you traveled more than 45,000 miles in a bus, right?
Yeah.
That you woke up at 3 a.m. one day and decided you wanted to buy a bus, correct?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. So we were doing all those workshops, and then out of nowhere, I get this call from Facebook, and they were like, "We saw your videos. You do all these events. You teach people. Can you choreograph and be a big part of this commercial we're doing for the Olympics?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." And with that, I was like, talking with some friends. We were up late at night, and I was like, "Wow, what would be just something so cool we could do with this money? I want to give all this money back. What can we do?" And one idea that just did not leave my mind, could not leave my mind. I was like, man, like let's buy a bus, let's pimp my ride, and let's drive this thing all around the country, like teaching these skateboarding workshops and bringing people together at a time where people felt most lonely and most disconnected. And so for that, I just like had this vision of like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if? How cool would it be if? And I just got so married and so infatuated with that idea and what that could and would look like that we just did it. I bought a bus that week. We converted it in 30 days and we just hit the road, just started driving around the country without a vision. It wasn't a nonprofit at the time. It was no business plan, and I remember very, very vividly, I'm like building this bus. I wore the same shirt and pants for a month. We auctioned it off at the end of the bus build. And during that time, I'm like having all these calls with sponsors like, hey, blah, blah, blah. We need $20,000 for this. We need $10,000 for this, $30,000. And they're like, oh, whoa, we didn't know you had a school bus, and we didn't know, oh, this is amazing. I'm like, well, it's being built. Like, what do you mean it's being built? You're leaving in 2 weeks. It starts in 2 weeks. And I'm like showing pictures on the Zoom or like videos on the Zoom of like me and my bus going at it with my buddy going at it with the angle grinder, like it was just so funny. I don't know.
Did you know how to do that before?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's YouTube University.
I love that. I love that. Was there one story or a person that sticks out after you traveled 45,000 miles in that bus and built community and talked to all kinds of different people?
Yes.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes to mind, we actually did this event series with LA County Department of Mental Health last year. We did this whole event series through May where we'd go to different underprivileged communities around Los Angeles and host these pop-up events. So there was like a main stage and all these different activities and activations. We were one of the activations, and we were teaching people how to skate. I brought my big colorful bus. We had a DJ on the roof. We're teaching skateboarding, roller skating, and a very uncomfortable person came up to me and was like, hey, can you help me with something? It's maybe a big ask in broken English, right? We're way out in like Pacoima or something. It's like Riverside, east of Riverside, I think. I don't know. It's like way out there. And they're like, well, my daughter's blind. Can you teach her to skate? And I was like,
Wow.
I think so. Is it cool if I hold her hands? And she's like, yeah, cool. And so I'm like teaching her how to skate, and we're like rolling around, and this cute little like 8-year-old Hispanic girl. And we just like, I just like left my team. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go with this girl for a little bit. And we're like going all over the parking lot, over the whole park, and just like the mom's having a blast, and the dad's like taking videos, and the mom's taking videos. We get both them on skateboards too, and they're rolling around, and they opened up to me and we're like, hey, like this means so much to us that you give her this attention. We actually just came up from Mexico. She was supposed to get some eye surgery that was supposed to help her, and they just delayed it like a year. So I guess we're just hanging out for a year, and it's super sad and hard for our family. We don't know what we're going to do. And being that we have so many skateboards, I was like, well, the least I can do is give you a skateboard. And so I went over to her and I gifted this little girl a skateboard, and just she started crying, and her mom was crying and her dad was crying, and we all just like shared this really beautiful moment where we're all just like hugging, and it was cool to see like the hope and excitement, and I think that's like when you find this self-confidence in yourself, you can have so much more hope in life. And we're at a point where life can seem so desperate, and life can seem so arduous and polarizing and divided when we look at our phones.
Absolutely.
But when you look out in the outside world, it really starts to open up, and you realize the world can be a really beautiful place.
Yeah. That's a beautiful story. Talk about conquering fear. That's being able to not see and getting on a board that has wheels and it's moving and you don't know where it's going. Yeah. So you talk a lot about conquering fear, and Truth is, we all have to conquer fear daily. We may not even think about it, but every single day, there's little things. Even if you think about procrastination, sometimes can very much be tied to fear. You're either consciously or subconsciously afraid to take the next step or the next move. So, Brandon, what is your take on conquering fear after all of this experience that you've had of helping people conquering fear? So, their skateboards, doing it yourself, and just living this life that you've been living of conquering fear all the time.
It always comes back to vision, and it's got to come from your heart. Whenever I look back on the times that worked in my life and the times that didn't work, it was almost always related to an alignment issue or an aligned alignment. But it's like there's a couple elements that always are true in my story, and it's like you got to have clarity on what you want to do. Right? You got to have a why. You have a clear why. Like, why am I even doing this? What's the intention? And then you got to think through it. You got to have calculation, right? You got to be able to look through like, well, what's actually the worst that can happen, but also what's possible? What's the best that could happen here? So you kind of define your scope, right? You got to have calmness. Can't let fear drive the car. Fear can, maybe sit shotgun every once in a while, but you're driving the car. And eventually, once you have all those pieces, you just need courage to do it and just trust that it'll work.
I love that. Courage, trust, vision, clarity. Do you find that it's easier for you to have, an aligned vision or have clarity, like where does it teeter sometimes? Does it fade away and you kind of have to snap back into it? Do you have a process that gets you grounded into your vision and mission?
My favorite question is, wouldn't it be cool if? And also reframing what's probable, what's probably going to happen, and asking what's possible. Because what's possible is so expansive. It's like, oh, what's probably going to happen? Oh, I'm going to go to work today. My boss is probably going to have this weird thing that he always does. But what's possible? What's possible is that he brings us all muffins and he's high-fiving everybody and that we're going to have a movie night. I don't know. Like, what's possible? Like, the possibility is, like, endless. And just, like, even though those things sound so goofy, it's just, like, anything's possible. And so why not, like, lead and why not, like, expect that to happen?
And the interesting thing about that is that a lot of the times we're thinking about, like, the worst possible thing that can happen. And if you think about the gnarliest, like, weirdest, goofiest, coolest thing that can happen, like, if you think that that's virtually impossible, it's also pretty possible that the worst thing can happen too, if you think about it that way. So it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. A couple of months ago you turned 30 and you posted something really meaningful on socials, and you talked about following your heart and betting on yourself, and whatever, if we can place that right there, betting on yourself. And you wrote about 10 lessons, and I was wondering which of those lessons was the hardest, but also gave you the most strength or the biggest learnings out of it?
Truthfully, I don't remember the 10 lessons. But if there's one thing that was really true in the last 10 years of my life, it's that nobody knows you as well as you do. And if you genuinely feel that you're doing the right thing and you're trying your best, nobody can stop you. And so you shouldn't let them stop you, because it was so often in my life that I would let people that had some cynical view of me without even knowing me take so much of my energy and just really energy vampire my life. And it wasn't until recently that I was able to just distance myself from that and be like, okay, cool, I have empathy for you. You're on your own journey. You obviously struggling with something. That's not my problem.
Right. Yeah.
Do I have to deal with it? Yes. Is it super annoying? Yes.
Yeah.
But you can't stop me. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm doing good things.
I love that. I love that takeaway. By the way, on that post, our friend Constanza, where are you at? There she is. So thanks for that post. So I want to acknowledge something here. On that post, at the very last slide of that post, was a long carousel, which Constanza obviously read all the way through. You said that you wanted to share your voice and you wanted to share your stories about conquering fear. And by the way, Constanza, you're you're next on the podcast. She's an incredibly mission-driven musician. So if you're in, and I just want to acknowledge that you put that out there, that you wanted to share your voice, and that's how she ended up connecting us, because you put that out there. A lot of times, I think we're doing things and we're working hard and we're desiring to do stuff, but we're not that clear. We're not communicating it that clear to the universe, to people out there. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for doing that and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to share my voice. I want to share my lessons. I want to talk about conquering fears. So now it's just, now we're here on stage, you're getting to share, and it's just going to keep on happening, and you're going to share more. And it's beautiful, man. So just, lovely.
Thank you. Thank you, Koti.
So looking ahead as we finish up here, what does success mean to you? What kind of legacy are you hoping to leave behind, not just with skateboarding, but with living a mission-driven life and inspiring humans?
Success to me is very, very simple. Success to me looks like spending the absolute most amount of time following my curiosities and exploring my creativity in whatever way that might be. And in different seasons of my life, that's meant I get super deep in skateboarding and how to be the most technical, badass skateboarder. In other seasons, it was photography was a big passion. And now it's in building community and hosting unforgettable experiences.
I love that. And in a second here, we'll open it up to some questions from the audience. I do want to invite you to connect with us. You can scan either of these QR codes and connect with Brandon, connect with me, check out the podcast. If you like this conversation, you probably like others, so please check that out. It's the Conscious Profits Unfiltered podcast, which, by the way, changing its name, and this is the first time I'm saying it, because I was realizing that it's all started with all about conscious business and making money and creating impact, which is something that I'm very passionate about. But at the end of the day, it's really just about awareness and, opening people's minds to being more aware. And if you're an aware human being, most likely you'll be doing impact-driven things and have a mission. And of course, making money with a mission will come along with that. But it's going to be called aware. So just so you know, it's the first time I'm saying that. But yeah, last question here, Brandon. We'll open it up with, what are 2 traits that a conscious leader must embody today?
Kind candor, one. It's been a growth edge for me recently, which is basically saying really hard shit to people sometimes that they don't really want to hear, but you're saying it from a place of love and wanting the best for them. That's one. And another one is like just having clear vision and clear intentionality. What's the intention for your organization? Why do you exist? What's the intention for this specific event you're going to host? What's the intention for this 5-minute opening circle? And what do these people need the most right now?
I love that. That's so powerful. Setting intentions, even if it's for like your entire life or a business, or like you just said, a 5-minute opening circle, is incredible. And you'd be shocked at how well that can basically be returned to you by just simply setting the intention out. It's beautiful. So thank you so much for that, Brandon. I'd like to open it up to just a few questions and then get to connect with each other for a bit longer. Anybody have a question for Brandon? This gentleman right there. We'll bring him the mic. Right here at the front.
You have such a wonderful. There's no.
Oh,
Right.
I don't think that's on. We do want it on as we. So it goes in the recording. Is it not on? 1 second. Or here, I'll just give you mine. It reaches. Oh, check it out now.
Hello, hello.
There we go. Thank you.
So first of all, wonderful interview. Wonderful smile. You really bring people up with your smile. It's beautiful and wonderful. And the same thing with you as well. So it's
Thank you.
It really opens people up when you smile, and it's a beautiful thing. And I can see you could be a great leader because of that.
Thank you.
All right. The question is, what's your gnarliest fall, and what happened afterwards?
Great question.
That's a great question. You know, my gnarliest fall is also one of my dumbest falls that happened when I was like 15. So I was living in Salem, Oregon, right? We had this soapbox derby hill, which if you don't know what that is, it's like a little slope in the middle of a park, a couple blocks long. Not that fast, 20 miles an hour. But what we did is we hosted like what they would call a Chinese downhill. Okay, I don't know if that's politically incorrect nowadays, but it basically meant everyone gets to the top of the hill. We go at the same time. First one to the bottom wins. And I was like okay, not that good of a skater, but I was like, made sure I got to the front of the line, and I'm sitting there, and I'm all the way at the very edge, and there's like a curb on the side of this soapbox derby track. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to squat down, and as long as I look straight down, so I'm fast, and I don't hit the curb, and I don't hit the guy next to me, I might just win this. There was no prize, but I don't know, bragging rights. And what ended up happening is we get halfway down the hill, and I look up, finally, a couple guys next to me. We're all kind of in a line, 25 people. I look up, and there's a semi-truck parked, taking up 1/3 of the soapbox derby track because they were doing a wedding in the park, right? So I look up, and I was like, oh, my God, this is 3 seconds in front of me. We're shoulder to shoulder with all these people. And I just like look over and I start pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I jumped right at the last second. Boom. I hit the tire with my shoulder. And because I was at the front, I obviously got ran over by everybody and took the whole group out. And so I sprained both ankles, my wrist, my elbow, my shoulder. Just had road rash, like my whole body.
Oh, man.
And so
That is a gnarly one.
yeah, it wasn't the fastest
God.
I had fallen. Definitely not have fallen much faster. But when I was falling much faster, I was more talented, more skillful. I had pads on. Okay, there wasn't 25 people that ran me over. But it was that.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
That is a good one. And thanks for the reflection about the smiles. Actually, the first thing I told Brandon when I saw him this morning, I said, Brandon, you have a great smile. You're always smiling, and it lights people up, lights the room up. So
Thank you.
I love
This guy's
that.
got a good
Nice.
smile too.
Exactly. Thank you for that. All right. Any other questions we have right here?
Hi, I love your speech. I saw that your journey from feeling disconnected, loneliness, someone who can inspiring a community and bring people together. And I would like to know, what do you think is the three key elements or qualities that you think is the most important when it comes to bring people together and having this community?
Thank you. It's a great question. You know, for me, it's like vision. Like, what are your being very explicit and clear with what you believe? Not everyone's going to believe what you believe, but the people you want to be there are probably going to self-select out. And the ones that really do feel aligned, it's going to be a fuck yes for them. And that kind of fuck yes energy is what we're trying to bring into everything we do. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a no.
I love that.
So there's that. There's also just like kindness, you know, is a huge one. Not just being nice to people, but genuinely being kind, like looking in their eyes and giving them a big hug and giving them the sense that like you actually care about them and actually caring about them. And for the third one, I would say it's that kind candor piece where it's like there will be things that come up that are uncomfortable. People are gonna, you know, people are people. There's gonna be challenges or conflict, and as quickly as possible, trying to diffuse those with kindness, and with with clarity too, and not just being like, oh, it's like kind of cool, but like just don't do it next time. It's like, hey, not cool. It's not cool because these reasons. Here's our values. This is what our community stands for. But I know you have a good heart, and I know that's not the person you are. So I would love to have you around if you can uphold that standard.
Love it. Wonderful. Thank you. Beautiful question.
Mine was very similar. First off, I'm proud of you. I remember it's been a while, known you for a few years now, and we bromance pretty quickly. Good to see you, Seb. And my question is similar. I was very synchronistic. I'm here. I wasn't planning to come back to LA, and then stuff happened. I'm back from Asia, and I want to share, like, someone who's trying to start a community, what would be your piece or your advice to that person?
Find something that you're going to do anyways, whether anybody comes or not. It could be weekly, it could be monthly. It helps if it has some sort of like typical cadence, and just find something you're going to do, whether it's movies. Maybe you love movies. You're like, okay, once a month, we're going to do a movie night. Once a month or once a week, we're going to go play pickleball. We're going to play whatever. And don't be attached to anyone being there. Just find something that you genuinely love and are going to do anyways, and invite people.
Yeah, the detachment piece is so important. You just want people to show up, and you want so many people to show up, but then you just also never really know. Like sometimes the most magical one could just be like with 3 people, you know?
Exactly. And there's so many people that start a community, and it's like exciting because it's like, oh, it's 2 people, and then it's 5, and then it's 10, it's 15. It's like, oh my God, this is growing. This is amazing. And then it's 10 people. And it's like, what? I thought this was growing. I thought this was whatever. And it's like the quantity of people does not relate to the quality of the experience.
Yeah.
You know? And so, and with our local skate community, we've had rides up to close to 1,000 people. You know, we do big annual event, city takeover, a bunch of skateboarders and rollerbladers through the streets. That's amazing. What was also amazing is like the cold, windy ride we did in December where only the 15 most diehard people in our community came out. And it was just a different experience. We were able to like just bond and connect and like have a totally different experience. And so being detached from the quantity.
Totally. I love that. And as creators, you know, we're in LA, we're on the West Side, there's a lot of creators too. And it's the same thing with creating, right? Like whether we get attached to how many people view it or how many people listen to it and things like that. And you just never know if there's only 10 views, like you don't know which of those 10 views is going to, like how much it's going to impact, right? So that's a big difference. And also when it comes to that stuff, I know a lot of people, you guys here are creators, but like if you think about people in a room, when it comes to like people viewing, it's like, oh, like today we've had about like almost like 80 people in a room, right? And sometimes you're creating content like, oh, 80 views, like that's nothing, or like, oh, 500 views. Like imagine being in a room with 500 people or 1,000 people or whatever. So very impactful there. We'll do one. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say on that, and one of my guiding forces through all this, like when I reflect on like my brother and the challenges he's had and how my path could have been the same path as his if I didn't wise up when I did. It's just that like sometimes all it takes is one word, one sentence, or one novel experience from one person to completely change the trajectory of someone's life. And so the depth is not always something we can quantify. It's probably never something you're going to see in its fullest potential. And so you never know.
So many good nuggets today. I hope you all kept at least one of those nuggets. I always say if you get one epic takeaway from like reading a book or going to a talk or a hangout, that's massive. So I hope you all got at least one amazing takeaway. We'll do one last question and then we'll have some time to connect. Go ahead.
Hi. As one of those volunteers at the Waymo 150 board mix-up, I have a question for you, sir.
Yes.
When is our next event like that? What sort of plan do you have for, what I love to do and why I love to do it is because we're helping the community, especially children. I had mentioned to you about foster kids and stuff like that. What do you plan next for our charity event?
You got it. So we've been gifted with a lot of skateboards recently. And the beautiful synchronicity is that we've been in conversation with USA Skateboarding, which is the national governing body of skateboarding. And they're actually starting this program where they're going to be having PE programs, skateboard PE programs and leagues for skateboarding in different schools, starting here in California. And they need skateboards. And so we're going to be working with a lot of different schools and youth groups in the Los Angeles area to help build these programs and give kids more outlets to explore their curiosities and to find confidence in themselves. So really excited about that. We'll have more details coming. It's on discussion and conversation, but it's something that I wish existed when I was a kid. I mean, if there was a skateboarding league at my school, I mean, even a skateboarding club, that would have been so cool. So just
absolutely. And thank you for participating and wanting to help out kids and all that.
Thank you, Johnny.
So yeah. Well, thank you all so much again for being here. Brandon, you truly are a conscious leader. You're doing amazing things. I'm excited to see where you take all of this. So thank you again, all of you, for being here, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you like the show, please subscribe or share with a homie. It means the world to me. And honestly, straight up, just hit me up. The easiest way on Instagram, SEBNAUM. Ask me questions. I want to be here as a resource and a source of inspiration. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day. Much love.